Well, hello, Tonganoxie United Methodist Church. My name is Bill, and I'm the pastor here, and this is just a quick State of the Church address for 2016, as well as a small look ahead at 2017. I'm going to talk about a few of our all-church goals and how we're doing so far and where we think we're going to be at the end of the year, and then I'll finish with what we think we might start looking for in 2017. Well, our first goal that I want to talk about is our worship audit. At the beginning of the year, our church council met and established 5 goals, and one of the things we thought we needed to do was look at all of our worship experiences and what we might possibly do to ensure that every single person in our community felt welcomed and invited to our worship experiences. And so a team comprised of members of both of our existing worship services, our 9 o'clock contemporary and our 11 o'clock traditional, was put together, and they began to meet and discuss what worship looked like at Tonganoxie United Methodist Church, and also what we thought it might need to look like to continue to live out our mission and vision in the community. After meeting for a while, they decided and came to the conclusion that the data showed that we needed to split our contemporary worship service. And so one of the things that our worship audit concluded was that we needed to split from a 9 o'clock and an 11 o'clock to an 8:30 contemporary, a 9:45 traditional, and an 11 o'clock contemporary. And by doing that, we would have space for every single person we could, for as many people as we could, to come and participate in our worship services. So in September of this year, we launched a new worship service, and so far that has been going great. I'm so grateful for all of you who have dug in and gotten involved and taken leadership positions. That was one of the fruits of our worship audit. The other one that I want to talk about is live streaming. Over the last month or two, we've actually added the capacity to live stream our worship services onto the internet, which has been great for people who are homebound, physically having some limitations with movement, people who might even be in nursing homes. We're excited for what that'll look like in the future. And right now, it's just been great to have some of you chime in when you're on vacations or on work trips. We're excited to see what that looks like in the future, but all of that came out of a group of people looking at our worship experiences and wondering what we could do to make sure that we were as good as possible and making sure all people were invited to worship with us. So the second goal we had was a space audit. We wanted to inventory our physical facility, the physical church here at Tonganoxie United Methodist Church, as well as our needs for ministry. How many Sunday school classrooms do we need? How much space do we have in the sanctuary? And how many spaces do we need in the sanctuary? And so our trustees team came together and began to look at what do we have and what do we think we need, and where could we continue to improve how we use our physical space to meet the needs of our mission. At the end of that, trustees began to put together a project list and then began to inventory what we need to do to make this the best physical space we can to accomplish our purpose, so the purpose that we believe that God has called us to. Towards that, they started with some technology improvements in the sanctuary. We added screens and lights and a new lighting board and a confidence monitor in the back to make sure that people with audio and visual issues could see effectively in worship. We remounted the speakers so that people could hear better. We did what we could to make sure that worship was more easily accessible for all persons. Next, they worked on physical accessibility, and so we added ADA-compliant water fountains. We added a kick plate on our ramp, and we added some railings going on the stairs up to our stage so that all people could access it. Trustees put in a commercial coffee maker in the cafe so that we could continue to add more coffee as our church grew and needed to pump out more coffee on a Sunday morning. And then finally, they hung new bulletin boards and signage for people to be able to understand more of what's going on in the life of our church and community. Our third goal was our 2020 vision. After looking at a worship audit and also a space audit, we became aware that you know what, we think we have a great building and we think we have a great church and we're doing a good job with all of these things, but also we're aware that someday those needs might change. And we don't know what the future is going to look like, but at Tonganoxie United Methodist Church, we want to make sure that we're prepared for it. And so part of our finance team came together and proposed the idea of a 2020 vision. What would it look like to start now gathering the financial resources necessary for the future, whether that's new building spaces or new improvements here to our own space? We don't know what this is going to look like, but we do know that we're going to need resources for the future to continue to live out the goal that God has put in our church's life. And so the 2020 vision has started to slowly acquire some of those resources so that when the time comes that we know what we need and we know what we're ready to do something, that we'll already have laid the foundations necessary before we get there. Our fourth goal is our congregational care ministry. One of the things that I love most about Tonganoxie United Methodist Church is that we have some incredible people who live out their faith and put the gifts that God has given them into practice in their daily lives. And we have people who God has given gifts to care for other members of our church family and other members of the congregation. And so over the last year, we've identified 3 of these persons, and we've equipped and empowered them, and they are going to be commissioned as congregational care ministers. They're going to help care for other people in the church when they get sick or go to the hospital or just have some of the bumps and bruises in life where they need another church member to come along and love on them. Now, I'm still going to do congregational care. Melissa's still going to do congregational care. That's not going away, but these people will help us as we continue to be a church that seeks to reach out with love to our church family. These people will help us accomplish that as effectively as possible by living out the gifts that God has given them and the calling that God has put on their lives. Our 5th goal was the implementation of a small group ministry, and we're actually calling them life groups here at Tonganoxie United Methodist Church. We believe that it is essential that every single person have a small group of people that you can meet with on a regular basis to discuss and pray together, to grow together, and just to walk together through life, and most importantly, walk through this Christian faith. We've had incredible success with launching life groups, and we've had a bunch of you sign up for these, and a bunch of those life groups not only tried out the 6-week trial period, but also decided to stay and continue meeting. We're about to go into our 2nd life group launch, and I'm so excited to see how that one goes, but also to see how many of those life groups stay around. We've heard great things and great feedback from each of you who've participated, and I hope that this is something that if you haven't tried out yet, that you will take the time to give a life group a chance and to walk with people as we talk about scriptures and prayers and how those impact our daily lives. So that's the goals here at the church, but we've had growth in other areas as well, and we have other exciting things going on that we didn't really set as goals for the year, but it just worked out that way, and we're so excited about them. So first off, we've hired a whole bunch of new staff, and you're going to hear more about that in the staff parish report, but it's just been so exciting to see all the growth of our staff and the continued development of each of them as they live out the call that God put in their life. In particular, I want to lift up our interns, Grace Woods and Austin Harris. Grace is actually in charge of all of our videos for Charge Conference. We trusted her with that, and Austin's been in charge of a lot of different projects, including our communications plan. And we are blessed to have such incredible young people pouring their lives into the life of this church. Another thing I want to talk about is our communications plan. We've overhauled our logo. Susan Geiger put together an awesome new logo, and we have a communications team that's redesigned everything from bulletins to newsletters to how we communicate basic information. You'll see the logo on this video, but it's just so exciting to have people taking a fresh look at how we can continue to communicate a timeless message. One final thing I want to lift up is missions. Almost every single month we've had a missional or a service opportunity here in the life of this church, and that's done nothing but continue to grow and increase because people like you are putting their faith into practice by serving and loving on their neighbors. Some of these are really exciting things. Recently, we had Kids Rock do a bike-a-thon, and they raised funds to send a dozen bikes to an orphanage, probably somewhere in sub-Saharan Africa. We're still looking on the exact location. Or it's the Super Bowl where we got together a ton of cans to stock Good Shepherd and other local food pantries to make sure that nobody in our community goes hungry. I'm so excited about these service projects, and I can't wait to see how we continue to live into that in 2017. Well, that's just a quick update at what Tonganoxie United Methodist Church has been up to in 2016. In about a month, the church council is going to get together and vote about goals for 2017. If you have suggestions, I'd invite you to email or call them into the office and let us know what you think would make a big difference in the life of our church. But I also invite you to be praying for that time and those leaders and this church. Pray that God would use us to be the church that is inviting and connecting and growing and serving. Pray that God would use this church to continue to reach out with a message of grace and hope for all people. And pray that in 2017, we might continue to lean into the message that God has called us to, and that 2017 might be our best year yet.